Okay, so I've got Premiere open. I got this light suit video that I made, and I'm going to run through some quick text animation tips for you. So how I made this type here, I'm just going to drag the scrubber over here, was went to the type tool down here, clicked and dragged on my video, and started typing. And then you can see that when you do that, a type layer pops up here and allows you to make any adjustments. And then in the effect controls window, this is where you can make size adjustments, whatever you need to do to your text or your font. So now I'm just going to highlight the text here. And in here in the effect controls is where I have control over different things with my type, like size. I can change the color of that if I need to. It's all in here, or the type of font that I want. So I'm just going to delete that because I don't need it. And I was just showing you how I made the space light suit text. So now we're going to run through some quick animation tips. So open up your effects panel if you haven't. You can open up video transitions. There are some good transitions you can throw right on the type layer here. So if I go to wipe, so I go to gradient wipe, just click and drag that right on there, hit OK, and you can see the gradient wipe transition opens up. So I've clicked the transition, and here the transition controls are. So I can drag that over and see that it comes in like this. And again, if I go to the end, if I want that wipe to come in faster, I just drag that so it's smaller, and that will have it come in much faster. Drag it over, it comes in slower. If you want to reverse any of these, you just click reverse, and then it does it the opposite way. So if I unclick reverse, it will do it in the other direction. And it's that simple. So if I don't want that, I can delete it. I can see what barn doors are like. I can click the barn doors on here, and you can see that the barn doors reveal it kind of from the center. And likewise, I can go reverse, and then it comes from the sides instead of the center. I'm going to delete this right now. I'm also going to highlight in 3D motion the cube spin. Kind of cheesy, but might suit some sort of need for you. And you see that this cube spin brings it in off to the side there. Again, click on the transition, and then you can see I've got my reverse thing that I can click there. And some other things in the iris area here that I found handy are the iris round. You can click on this, drag that in there, and it does that. Now if I click on this, I'm also going to highlight a couple other features here. You can set border width. I'm going to put this at 10, let's say. And I'm going to set my color to white. And there you go. If you want to try something different like that and have a border bringing your text in. You can also start exploring immersive video here. Some ones to highlight in here are the gradient wipe in here. So VR gradient wipe I'm going to drag on right here. And there you have the VR gradient wipe come in. Click on the transition, and you see that you actually have feathering and other options available to you in here. You can invert the gradient if you want to. Deselect the invert gradient. Inside this transition you have feather and rotation, so I'm going to toggle these things and just see what happens here. So unlike the other ones in 3D motion, wipe, and iris, there was no feathering. It was just a straight harsh line. I can actually feather this up or down if I need to. You can also play around with the tilting of it and panning of it, and just see what happens there. See what iris wipe is like. Select this, you can increase the feather. Point of interest might be interesting to keyframe. And so you can see in the VR areas with gradient wipe and iris wipe, you have a little bit more controls and keyframing, and the fact that you can feather the edges of the transition is nice as well. Another one to highlight in the immersive video is the spherical blur. Let's drag that on here. And you can see you can have a lot of fun with that. So again, you could click on there and you can see blur strength. You could start keyframing this. And that shows you that you can use video transitions and place them on your text to transition the text into a scene. So now I'm going to highlight some video effects. In the drop-down menu here, I'm going to go down to transition. And you can see there's gradient wipe, linear wipe, and you can throw these on. So Venetian blinds will give you a different look. So I'm going to highlight that, throw on the Venetian blinds there. And then you can see up in your control panel here, dialing up the transition completion. If I go 90 here, that will make the direction on the vertical axis. I can decrease the width if I want to. There we go. I can put some feather on if I want. So I'm going to set my transition to a point where I cannot see the text anymore at 100%. And then I'm going to toggle my keyframe animation for all of this. And then I'm going to dial down the transition completion to 0. So what I need to do now is I need to render this off so I can actually see what it's like in real time. This is red, so what I need to do is I need to put in point here and an out point over here, and now I've defined a work area, and I can go sequence, render effects in and out. It will do that. And now when it plays it, you see the line's green and it's playing it in real time here. So that was a bit too slow, so I'm going to move this in. Even for some fun, maybe adjust the direction and sequence, render effects into out. Let's see what this looks like now. And you get the idea. I'm now going to delete that. Throw on radial wipe to demo that quickly. And the same thing. You can start keyframing all this radial wipe. You can even do something with the start angle, and you can see as I'm like scrubbing through this what's happening. You can place a feather on that if you need to, and then you could do a wipe in. And then the last area that I want to highlight is blur and sharpen. So if I open this up, a directional blur looks really good, and you can animate that in. So I'm going to move my scrubber over here, put all the blur stuff at 0 so the text looks good, and then I can, and let's see what that looks like. If I don't want any spinning stuff here, I can just delete this. Just keep the. So I've removed the keyframe on the direction so that it just stays in one direction, and all I'm doing is keyframing the blur length, and that has a nice reveal there. I could also throw Gaussian blur on there if I wanted to add a little bit of extra blur. So hover over the endpoint here, toggle that there for a 0 blur, and then if I want, I can add a little bit of extra blur on that with the Gaussian blur. Let's see what that looks like. And then for an extra little bit of detail, I can go to opacity, line up my end keyframes here, toggle the opacity on at 100 there, go 0 here. May want to move this over a bit so it opacity's in to 100 sooner than the other ones, and there you go. So those are some text animation tips that can quickly get you started in Premiere.